Welcome to Green Building Matters, the original and most popular podcast focused on the green building movement. Your host is Charlie Cicchetti, one of the most credentialed experts in the green building industry and one of the few to be honored as a lead fellow. Each week, Charlie welcomes a green building professional from around the globe to share their war stories, career advice, and unique insight into how sustainability is shaping the built environment. So settle in, grab a fresh cup of coffee, and get ready to find out why green building matters.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cicchetti, and once a week I get to interview a green building professional somewhere in the world, and we talk about buildings, we talk about their journey, and today I've got Gary Badge with us. He's down in Winter Park, Florida. He's a managing member at FK Architecture. Gary, how you doing today?
Great, Charlie. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, you're welcome. Look forward to kind of seeing what you're up to today, but I've got to take us back first so that all of our podcast listeners kind of get to know you a little more and kind of how'd you get into this. So take us back. Where'd you grow up and go to school?
Well, originally I'm from New Jersey, but my parents moved us down to South Florida probably in 1990, if I'm not mistaken. So I was middle school age. I had plenty of time down in Florida so far. Haven't ever left. Went to school at University of Florida. Got my degree there, and then I went back to FAMU and got a second degree. So I've got one in building construction and design, and the other one is in architecture. So 2 bachelor's degrees, was making a short career out of school, and then got out into the workforce. It was probably 2004, 2005. I came up to the Orlando area, started working for Fugenberg Koch, and been here pretty much ever since. So it's coming on my 18th year. And I've been involved in lots of things, soup to nuts in this firm, seen a lot. So,
oh man, that's fantastic. So Florida for a long, long time. Now, how about the architecture degrees? How'd you know you wanted to get into architecture?
Well, it was kind of serendipitous. I didn't really plan on being an architect like some others dream about. I was avid sports, enthusiast, played a lot. I was pretty good. I had baseball, wrestling, soccer, and, I thought I had other career plans and other things on my mind, but I got injured in my junior year of high school. So game plan switched. I took like an assessment test, and, there was like park ranger, architect, biologist. So architecture sounded to the best. It fit with my personality. Jobs that I had in high school, were all related to the building construction industry. I did some plumbing. I did lighting design. I did a little, framing work for a bit. But, those are odds and ends just to expose me to the industry. And then I just, I dove right into school, and then I never looked back. And it was pretty cool. University of Florida has a nice program, very abstract, opens up your mind, makes you think a little differently. Probably something I can contribute to my disease of not enjoying myself when I go on vacation. Everything I'm looking at is detail-oriented. Is that straight? Is that hanging right? Does that look right? So now my mind is all in tune with that. And, we've been doing complicated projects here, and that's where I stay. So.
You moved your way up there in these leadership positions. But okay, here were your options, and architecture was one of them. I like to talk about green buildings here too. So as you've put together this architecture career, what has green buildings meant to you? How'd you know you might kind of spend a little more time on the green path?
Well, interesting. In my early career, I would have to admit it wasn't that big of a focus. And I think it was really when I was working on a big project in East Tennessee, coming right out of the recession. I had a lot of flights from Orlando to Knoxville. And you look out the window and you take in the atmosphere and see a lot of trees. And, it's that viewpoint you never get to see on the ground. And over the years, I noticed there's less and less trees. And I don't know what happened, but a transition inside of me took over, and I thought, that doesn't seem right. There's a lot of building going on, and I understand Florida's pretty flat, so it's easy to develop. But it had me concerned and bothered that we weren't, building smartly. It seemed like We just come in and we take down 60 acres and then we build it however we want. And so it's been increasing over time, and some of my industry friends are getting involved in it. And, I think we have an obligation as architects to educate and promote the developers to be smart about what they want to do. And it's tough, we're in a capitalistic society, so money's always the first thing in everybody's mind. And, quite frankly, a lot of the green building practices are more costly. So we're trying to do a better job here, though, of making it known that, we have one planet, we don't get another one until we colonize Mars with Teslas. But, we need to do a better job. And so that's really what started. It was that observation of where all the trees go.
Man, that is a little aha moment there on those flights back and forth. I know when I was coming up in construction, when I got out of Georgia Tech, I sometimes would drive, sometimes would fly to Charlotte, and that might seem like a short flight, but back then it was $99, and you hop up and back, and you're at the construction site. But so let's talk about mentors. Have you had any mentors along the way? Maybe even opened a door for you?
Yeah, when I started at Fugler Koch specifically, there was a gentleman named Wayne Conine, and he was my studio director. And, I really liked his approach. He was originally from Indiana, I believe. And so he had worked in Chicago and other big cities. And he came with a background of like hospitality, high rises, things like that. And he really helped cultivate a learning environment, gave me a lot of opportunity to explore who I was as a young architect. And he promoted me, getting my feet wet in a lot of different aspects of the industry. So from there, I just kind of poked around, and he let me grow. He just would nudge me a little bit in the directions that he thought I should go, and that's the way I went. So I guess I kind of credit him, to allow me the freedom to express myself and grow in the industry.
That's fantastic. Well, let's connect some of the career dots here. So early at FK, project director, and then you've, managing member now. So you said you wore a lot of hats, did a lot of things at the firm. So, tell us about some of your early projects, and then, kind of let's get to what are you doing today, but just kind of connect the dots as you've grown your career here within the company.
Sure. When I started, I guess Fugler didn't really know who I was or what I was about, but they knew something was there. So they started me off as, just assisting in production. And we were doing a lot of hospitality timeshare projects at the time. We had a couple high-rise condos going on. It was very busy prior to the recession. And, our studio got divided, and I happened to be kind of the odd man. And they gave me a series of projects. I was doing projects for Hilton. I was doing projects for Marriott. I was doing projects for Blue Green, Sheraton. These are all hospitality clients. And so I was pretty busy with that. And I guess that's where my love of the hospitality industry, started. And then over time, I've been managing a lot of bigger projects in the office. Our bread and butter is a multifamily here at Fugler. And we do a lot of it. And so there's been multifamily experience, hospitality experience. As the years go on, I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate to have a project in East Tennessee. That was the Dreamwork Resort, Dollywood Dreamwork Resort. That lasted about 5 years all in, from conception to, heads and beds. And so a lot of my career path was geared towards that. And then since then, I've grown into leadership roles and managing more people and getting involved in operations and getting involved in, our company's business of the business. So I kind of oversee some business development things now. I oversee operations. I've got a team doing, a bunch of diversified project types. We've got hospitality, multifamily, renovation, and modular projects. So we're pretty busy and fortunate as well.
Yeah. It's good to be busy. And modular, we might need to hit on that in a minute. But, when you're meeting with these clients, do you bring up certifications or energy efficiency or LEED or WELL or FitWell, or sometimes the clients ask for it? Or, how does that conversation go?
Well, early in the process, when a client calls us and wants to solicit our services, I'll ask, what's your program? What's your scope? Do you own the land? Things like that. And that's usually where I interject and say, are you thinking green building practices? And some of them don't really know what that means, so I go through the spiel. And then others they say no, and others say, well, maybe. And so we find that a lot of clients need to be educated a little bit before they commit to something that's a green building practice.
That's a good point. On the multifamily, I've recently seen, you mentioned modular and almost kind of the productizing of construction. So what kind of projects are doing modular and reduce waste and hopefully doing better on embodied carbon? But you brought it up. So tell us a little bit about the modular side of things.
Yeah, so I would guess that's my answer to really pursuing sustainable building practices. We had sat around prior to COVID as a team, and we were looking at different ways to diversify our portfolio. With the world being so busy as it is, and the pendulum swinging, and we've been doing so much multifamily. I was trying to find solutions to be more efficient in the kinds of work we were doing. We had a big interest in our staff looking at modular building practices and boutique kinds of scenarios. So we started exploring the Modular Building Institute, and right away it clicked with me, and I signed up. And we've been a member for the last 3 years, and we've been growing in the industry. And it sounds silly, but I liked Legos. You might have liked Legos. Other people liked them. So modularity isn't Legos necessarily, but putting those things together, that's what kind of sparked my interest. And I think what sealed the deal is I was doing like a little man cave. I bought a shed and I fitted out myself, and I was a one-man show. And I said, this is pretty easy, pretty efficient. When I was done, it was an occupied space, like an accessory dwelling unit. I thought, boy, this is cool with what we do. If we stack these and orient them in different ways, we could be having, a smaller carbon footprint and still providing an experience for different kinds of project type. And so we've been digging in, and we've been learning a lot. And the first thing that they explain to you is everybody's got to overcome the misconception. Modularity is like a manufactured home. It's not. It's totally different. Modular construction is a conventional practice of building, but it's in a controlled manufacturing facility. So, you're actually doubling up on the wood and products and other things that you're building with. So it's a better built building, and it's more contained. And so because of the advantages that modularity offered, I saw it as that's a way to promote sustainable practices in building without necessarily employing green certifications. Just by how you do a modular project, you're being more green. You've got less emissions, less disturbance of the environment. You're able to work in smaller sites. It's great in urban environments. And so that's something we've been pushing and promoting. And we've got 3 projects in the making that are exploring a modular deliverable. We just came back from the World of Modular conference. Had a great time, learned a lot, met a lot of interesting people, and it's a growing industry. And I really firmly believe that at some point in time, the whole country, the building construction industry is going to catch on to it, and it's probably going to be a mainstream. Right now, it might have its little niche pockets here and there. The West Coast of the United States is very much involved in it. The East Coast is dabbling in it, but there's still, you can tell there's a division in the school of thought with development. Money's important in both camps, but the more free thinking people, it seems, are apt to explore different ways of doing things. And, others they're more geared towards what they know and know is going to work for their performance. So, you have to educate the clients, you have to educate the contractors on why there would be an advantage in using this, but there's quite a bit of interest, especially with the way the economy is, and it's hard to get materials. It's hard to find cost-effective solutions to build the way you want to build. And then you've got to be cognizant of which kind of a client do you have? Do you have the client that is building and owning and operating, or are they selling and have another agenda? So, all those things come into play where, how do you get somebody to commit to a modular project, and so again, it's about education. That's why we went to the conference, to get as much data as we can so that, we could kind of push this agenda and be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Be proactive and really future-proof your firm there. That's super smart, and sounds like you love to learn. And let's look back just a little bit more, and then we'll look ahead. But, what are some of your proudest achievements?
As an architect, it was the Dreamwork Resort, really. I think being part of that team was life lessons that I'll probably never get again. The timing was right. So everybody came together and was willing to pitch in because it was right after the recession. So people were very thankful to be involved in a major project. And that's on all levels, the contractors, the consultants, the clients, everybody was together. It felt like a family. We had a lot of fun. We worked hard. We played hard. It was a constant process from start to end. And because of the complication and the massive size of it, that struck a chord with me to interest me and motivate me. And I learned a lot then as well. And when it was all said and done, it was a really nice project. We were given a set of criteria to build towards, and it was very challenging because, we were coming out of the recession, so budget was even more of a concern than it is today. And we had to find ways of, building on the dime. We had to make it look like $1 million, but we weren't spending $1 million. And, we employed green building practices with that. We used recycled materials and old barn wood and things like that, and I stand back and, I'm really proud of that project. I think it turned out excellent. The client was Hershey Family Entertainment. They hadn't built a resort before. And so this one was their first go at it. And, their marks were low. And then at the end, they realized, they could do better. And the place is always sold out as far as I know. It's on the top list of best themed resorts in the country. And, we have that in our portfolio. So I'm glad I was part of it and glad that all the people I met, and it was just great.
So telling us that story, it sounds like just an incredible project, but especially at the time, right? I mean, it's been wild. So tell us a little more about your firm today. You mentioned some of the projects you get to work on, your team. I can tell you really enjoy leadership and probably cultivating careers. So just, what else is keeping you busy today?
Well, we're always looking for new ways to explore the space. We don't want to just be looked at as the multifamily architect or the hospitality architect. We're in a creative field. We're a creative profession. We can work on a multitude of things. So our focus is keeping ourselves diversified and looking for the competitive edge, because it is a very competitive market these days. Our Orlando area has seen a lot of outside firms coming to town and setting up shop now. So, we've got to find better ways of doing things. Our founding partners, Bob Koch is on his way to retirement. His other partner, Lyle Fugelberg, he retired several years ago. So there's this transition of the next generation taking over. So we like to build on our legacy. We've been in business about 62 years. So that speaks to our stability, resilience, and how we can, circumvent all kinds of challenges in the world. And, we've got a lot of great building practices and core principles. And so we're taking those to the next step. We're looking at ways to stay solvent, overcome all the things that are going on in the world and keeping ourselves interested and motivated. We want to do creative, fun projects, and we're fortunate to have lots of good relationships with clients, and they take us all over the country. We're actually doing a lot of work outside the state of Florida, probably more than we do in the state of Florida these days. And we're licensed in over 30 states, so we get a lot of travel, and we really want to be recognized on a national platform, I think. So especially since multifamily is one of our bigger project types that we do here. We want to be out there. We want to be the go-to architect.
Love it, man. What do we need to know about multifamily? I mean, one over here, we could talk about supply chain and material costs, but, maybe set it aside. Just how have you seen multifamily designs change in the last 5 or 10 years? Is it more amenities? Is it bigger or smaller footprints? Less 3 bedrooms? I don't know. Could you educate us? What's changed a little?
Well, we've seen different unit mixes come into play. There's certain markets that like a bigger unit and other markets that don't. And I think we've seen most of our projects go to a more efficient design, not quite as large, and we've done a good deal of work where we, change up the unit type so each person feels like they're getting a unique experience, and most of that is in the market rate stuff. We also do affordable housing. We do assisted living, senior housing, all kinds of housing projects. So I think in the market sector, it's been competitive based on the amenity and where the clients can find the best location for the project. We've got larger clubhouses now, but maybe not as big of the unit types. We offer, full facility fitness centers, resort style pools, things of that nature. We focus on materiality. It's more about the experience and giving the end user that feeling of ownership and individuality. And we focus on, better design practices because of it. So not everything is cookie cutter.
Love it. Well, let's talk about what's next. Gary, pretend you had a crystal ball. What are you kind of reading up on? I know you mentioned modular, but what else is kind of exciting coming up in the building side of things or even green buildings?
I think what I want to pursue a lot now is the affordable housing market. And two conferences I've been to recently both spoke about it. Our own local mayors have an agenda to do it. We've got a number of clients that do it. It's in the news nationally. There's a need. There's people in need. Prices aren't getting any cheaper. And to make that industry more than what it is, there's another education process, because what we found is even in jurisdictions that want it, well, there's a stereotype about what affordable housing is, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's just a bland building that is putting people in need in there, and it's in a more undesirable neighborhood. It's not that at all. I mean, you've got senior people, blue collar people, that they're the fabric of our society, that our nurses and our workers and everybody that's keeping the system going. Well, maybe they can't afford $5 a gallon in gas, and maybe they're not bringing in a 6-figure income, and they've got kids to feed, and so they need a nice place to stay at an affordable rate. And so we have clients focused on that, and I think that's part of our main agenda, is to explore that space a little more and to employ some of these new building tactics like modularity and show the industry how that deliverable can serve the need. And that's what we're doing. So I think that's going to be big. I think hospitality is going to come back. I think more and more people are looking at sustainability with that as well, especially with COVID. Even the way that we were doing our practices, they found we were being wasteful, a lot. And now we found different ways of doing things, and we don't have to clean the towels every single day. We don't have to use all these amenities and water and and heat and energy, and we can do it better, and it's been proven. And so I think that we need to explore that as well, and that's what we're talking about.
Sometimes we need to be forced to find, is there a better way? But with affordable housing is so important. So glad you're gonna strategically go after more of that work. I love it. And let's do some rapid fire questions to get to know you a little more. What's your specialty or gift?
I'd say it's communication and probably strategy. I think those things are my strong suits.
Nice. And do you give us some pro tips? Do you over communicate? Do you do a weekly message to the team, a standing meeting? Like, how do you like to communicate maybe to your team?
Communication is knowing when to say the right thing at the right time. It's also, keeping everybody engaged and collaborating. That's another big thing we put into practice inside our office. Also keeping the clients informed, on a regular basis, and to the point, not too verbose, not, overly done. Get to the point, get the answers you need, do it in a timely manner. And also the greetings, always start with good afternoon, good morning, things. I mean, those are basic things that we take for granted because we live in the age of social media and texting, and we shorten our words and we make up words and stuff like that. So sometimes we forget to be cordial, and I think that goes a long way. So those are the ways that I communicate and think are important.
So timing is important. And now, what about strategic thinking? I mean, do you like to go and think to yourself first, and then you get others behind it? Do you like to pen and paper? How do you like to strategically plan?
It usually just happens in the course of conversations, or I went to an event, I talked to somebody, that they struck a chord with me, I brought it back to my team, and then as I spoke about it, started generating ideas. I like to use baseball as an analogy a lot. And, if people listen, they might roll their eyes if they don't like baseball. But I think as a team here in our office, that is a good comparison to how we can execute, putting the right people in the right positions and getting things done. And, before the pandemic, I was about being proactive, seeing it as an opportunity for us to kind of drop back, look at ourselves, look at our image, our identity, and just life experiences, get me going, get me motivated. There's a lot of great people in my office, and we have interesting conversations, and they motivate me. And they say some, and I say some, and next thing you know, we've got an idea on the table, and to the point where we probably have too many ideas on the table right now. We need to get more focused on things to get them done and executed. We've made a lot of great progress, but we've started, say a dozen things, and they all kind of went up, each one incrementally, but each one has to get done, and to stay focused. So that's kind of what we're faced with. There's only almost too many ideas, but it's usually through just communicating, just talking, and that's how the idea starts. And then the strategy is, I don't know, to me, I feel like it's common sense sometimes, and maybe it's not. And I'm always looking at efficiency and how to be effective and quality of life, making people, feel like, I like working here. I like doing this kind of work. And that's not just to the employee, but also the clients, getting them involved in the experience and, exchanging ideas. And I think those are strategies in themselves. And that's how you get a better project, a better outcome.
Sounds like you can do it kind of in real time there. So do you have any good habits, routines, rituals?
Well, I brush my teeth. I go to bed on.
Yeah, I guess it.
We like to start off every Monday with a meeting, kind of highlighting where we are, where we're at, what employees we need to do a certain task. Personally, I follow those same kind of guidelines. Start at the beginning of my week, see what I have to accomplish in the week, and I set some small goals for myself. And I go down my list and I try to achieve them, and I make it a focus to do one thing at a time. Even though we like to pretend we're multitasking, you can really only do one thing at a time, and to do it well, you want to focus on it. So I take the time to do that. I exercise to try to stay healthy, keep my mind fresh. I like boating and fishing, so I make time to go outdoors and kind of disconnect for a bit so I can keep myself, current, not burnt out. So I'd say those are some of the rituals that I put into practice.
Love it. Thanks for sharing. I'm a fan of a bucket list. What are one or two things maybe on your bucket list? I don't know, some travel, some adventure, maybe write a book. I don't know. What's on the bucket list?
From a work standpoint, I'd love to execute a large hospitality modular project and activate all the things that we've been talking about in house and all the things I described to you. That would be something I'd like to do. From a personal standpoint, there's a lot of this country I haven't seen, and there's places outside the country I haven't been to. So I want to do a little more traveling, as you mentioned. I'd like to see Spain, Italy, Ireland. Go explore other places. I think I'm naive and only know what I see and on TV or reading a book, and I'd like to be there because sometimes I feel like, wow, I can't believe this place is as similar to my little bubble, where I am. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to go out west. I haven't been to Seattle. I haven't been to California. About as far west as I've gotten was Utah, and did some hiking. I'd like to do more of that. So that's it, I think.
Some amazing places. Recently, I was able to go to London and Munich for work. So I think this pandemic is in our rear view. It was great to not just have some meetings, but also to go to a kind of like a green building conference in Munich. So, man, I encourage you to just get out as you can. I know you're busy, but those were two really cool cities, just for the record. I hadn't been there, and that was really neat to go there. And there's a lot of lead projects even in Europe, even though there they have BREEAM. It was nice to see some lead professionals there really get it and are used to our program too. It's real special. Just two more questions here as we kind of start rounding out our conversation. Is there any career advice you wish you'd have known earlier?
Yeah, that the professional world is not the same as what you're doing in school. I wish I would have gotten more exposure to how it's done from a business stance than how we were foreseeing it in school. So I would recommend that a lot of young up-and-coming professionals that are still in school year, maybe even early in their school years, get out, work for a firm, get some of that real-world experience on your belt early, so you're prepared, you know what you're up against. Get Revit software under your belt. We do Revit a lot. I think a lot of industries are going to it that are in the building construction industry. Learn the software, learn your details. I think all those things are going to help you be a better architect or builder, constructor, whatever you are in the A&E industry.
Great advice. All right, last question. Let's say someone's listened to this podcast. Gary, they've really enjoyed hearing your story. They're jumping into the green building movement right now. Do you have any words of encouragement for them?
I would say educate yourself and do the best you can. Be patient. You're not going to get it right the first time, but maybe the second or third, you'll start to get some exposure. So educate yourself, be patient, be willing to learn, be willing to collaborate, and keep up with current building practices. Always explore the different things. Join the Lead Green Building Council. Join ULI or Green Print. Do something like that. Get involved. That's the best advice I can give. Go
for it. Get involved. Yeah, trade organizations have been so helpful. And just Gary, gosh, thanks for your time today. Thanks for giving us a peek into your journey. I can tell you really have been loyal there at the company. You've moved your way up, and you're ready to take it into some new strategic directions, things that you have a passion about. So thanks for spending time with us today on the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Charlie.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At gbes.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.